The bulk load service refers to the action of a mass import of existing inventory data into the TIBCO Fulfillment Subscriber Inventory database with existing parties and items. This tutorial assumes that you have already created CSV files containing items, item characteristics, item relationships, orders, parties, party characteristics, and so on, and put these files in a directory on the Oracle database server. If you have not completed this, see the configuring for the bulk load topic in the TIBCO Fulfillment Subscriber Inventory Installation and Configuration Guide. The bulk load directory name is a logical name for Oracle, not a literal directory on the Oracle server, and you must run commands on the Oracle server for the bulk load directory to be available. Define the CSV file directory accessible by the Oracle database by running the following commands. These commands will create a directory on Oracle and grant read and write access on the directory. Now you need to create a bulk load JSON configuration file. Once you created the file, you need to configure the parameters in this file. The file should be constructed like this. There is a sample in the installation and configuration guide in which you can copy and paste and then change the values. So first you would need to configure the directory name for where the data files to be loaded are. Then you need to configure the timestamp format. This is the timestamp format for the date time columns that is used in the CSV exported data. The timestamp here follows the Oracle notation. It is possible to customize the date time format per entity for the date time type of columns in the source data. The preprocessor name can be left blank. Then you'll want to define the commit size. Here we have defined a commit size of 10. This is the frequency of commits when performing creations. Then define the data source names, types, and column list. You can have as many or as little data sources as needed as long as there are at least one party or one item. The data source name must be the same name of the CSV file that is inside of the Oracle directory. The data source types define the type of entity to load. See the configuring for the bulk load topic in the installation guide for the different types that can be used. Next, define the data source column list. The data source column list defines the names of the columns in the CSV file. Some columns are mandatory and some are optional. See the mandatory and optional columns topic in the installation and configuration guide for the list of mandatory and optional columns. Now that you have set the configurations in the JSON file, you need to configure the path to the JSON file in the config XML file. So navigate to your TIBCO home and open your FSI folder. Locate the config folder and open the XML file. Here's where you configure the path to the JSON file. Click Save and then close the file. After changing the config file to configure the file path, you must restart the Fulfillment Subscriber Inventory server for the value to be taken into account. After restarting the server, log in to the TIBCO Fulfillment Subscriber Inventory UI. Click Bulk. Enter a bulk load ID. Click Load. Now that the bulk load is done, you can see the start time, end time, load ID, how long it took to complete, and the logs. If you come over here and click parties, you can see all the different parties that were loaded in the bulk load. If you click items, you can also see all the items that were loaded in the bulk load. And that is how you do a bulk load in TIBCO Fulfillment Subscriber Inventory.